Welcome to a live session here on Saturn's 2023 transit. And this is a bit of a unique video because, as some of you from my other social media, my IG, would know that my sister is in my eldest sister is in ICU, and it is a pretty dire situation. Every 2 hours is like some new development that happens. Now, why is it that this video is kind of related with this? Is because I was talking to my uncle who's in California. He's like my spiritual mentor, you can say, and I'm his. Um, and if you saw my post on my Facebook or my YouTube, I haven't used Facebook in 2 years. But on my YouTube, I made a post that, hey, if you want to know about my childhood and my study habits, watch this movie called Tare Zameen Par. It is an Indian movie, Bollywood movie. The reason why I said that, because I was talking to my uncle about all the conversation he had with my sister on philosophy and spirituality. Like, my sister is a big follower of Sister Shivani. And so my sister was telling my uncle, when me and mom watched that movie, Tare Zameen Par, we were bawling our eyes out because we felt that guilt of not understanding our brother, what was going on with him. And literally, if you see that little child, the way his face is, that exactly how my face was. Like, I had my teeth were out, and it was, uh, it wasn't like as they portrayed in the movie, like I wasn't seeing numbers flying. I wasn't seeing, numbers crawling as spiders. But yeah, I had a major disability growing up, learning. I mean, it was terrifying because in India, teachers did not understand you. I don't know how the situation is now, because back then the teacher would just slap you. They would hit you with a ruler. And what they would do, they would aggravate your disability even more. Like, I remember they used to make me stand on the table and read a book in front of the 30, 40 students that were there. And it was already so terrifying for me because when I looked at words, I if you spoke to me a sentence, I would understand as a child. But if I had to read, I knew the word, but I just didn't know what the sentence is. Same thing happened to me with mathematics. A basic mathematic equation of addition and multiplication, it was like a rocket science for me. Like, the numbers weren't dancing, but I did not know what this 2 is going to do with 8. And even today, at this age, if you ask me, tell us a difference between adverb, adjective, noun, pronouns, okay, I would not know what to do. I don't know what they are. But what I do know is how to write. So my brain is not, circumvented with these normal connections. So he was talking, he's like, yeah, your sister, was saying how if only they knew what their brother was going through, there he could have gone some other even higher. But I am where I am. But how is it that this story relates to the Saturn transit? Well, a miracle happened as soon as Saturn transit. Because here's the thing, in India, I was literally I was 2 grades behind. I don't know if you guys know that. I was like in fifth grade what I should have been in seventh grade, because again, my brain could not comprehend things. Okay. And then I didn't even go to school, like 1992. It was just, it was that bad of a situation with me and my learning disability. But in 93, January, the biggest thing happened, and it only happened because it makes sense now. That's why it was a biggest thing, because we got our visa for United States in January, right when Saturn entered Aquarius. And in April, I came here in United States. And at that time, I started my new school in September because there was a summer vacation. So what they did here in school in US, they actually did some assessment test with me. And once they did these assessment tests, they realized that okay, he needs to be in like ESL classes. It's like these special classes for foreign people. And in there, I still remember my homeroom teacher, Mrs. Mangini, at seventh grade. She actually understood, because when I used to read broken sentences, she would then say, okay, stay after class. And then she would kind of like understand what's wrong with me. And at that time, I don't know if there was something called learning disability, dyslexia, or what, but she kind of worked with me. Then miraculously, I had a geography teacher or a history teacher, Mr. Anderson. And he used to teach us without even knowing my condition. He used to teach us through songs. He used to teach us through, like, with a guitar. Okay. So in there, when I was listening to the song, I understood the United States history much easier than me reading a book. And he was that one teacher that actually read the book instead of going around one desk by one desk reading a chapter. I hated that. So when he did this, I understood it. So that's when I'm like, it's like, oh, I can understand by listening. So then what I did back there, at least in US, we had computers and everything. And whatever book, whatever subject you wanted to learn, you would put on a headphone and you would kind of like hear those things. And I used to hear that. And that's how I started learning. And thank goodness the educational system, I'm sorry to say this, but educational system was so dumbed down in US that it actually made it so much easier for me to get through all of my classes till high school. Okay. But they knew that okay, this he has these disabilities, so you're going to have to work with these special conditions. Like I was never in a normal classes. And so why did this happen? Because Saturn had moved into the sign of Aquarius in 1993, which brought about this karmic change. Okay. So it literally brought me into a situation where I was helped to a certain degree, even though still wasn't the help, but at least it put me in a much easier path to go through. And then because I knew the education is so simple and easy, I just went through it with my average grades. Okay. So what happens is when Saturn enters Aquarius, you have to understand what is Aquarius. Aquarius is, first of all, it's an air sign. Okay. It's an air sign, but it is the highest of the air signs. And air is communication. Air is learning. And when Saturn came in Aquarius, it made the learning easier for me. Saturn brought me to a level that I was supposed to be at. Like I was supposed to be in seventh grade at my age, and I was in seventh grade. Saturn's like, here's my gift to you. But why? Because see, Aquarius is known as a stored water in a vase. It is liquid, and that liquid has memory, because remember, water has memory. So what Saturn does when it comes into Aquarius, he's like, you no longer need to pay attention or learn from smaller mediums. I am going to put you and drop you into this vase of water, and I'm going to make you learn this aerial communication. You're going to learn through air and water. So now what does it show? It shows duality. It shows you're going to learn something, but you're not going to learn it the way you are learning. You're going to learn it into a completely different scenario. And this is why also Aquarius is a dual sign, because it has the controller of Rahu and Saturn. And Rahu is what? Wi-Fi, internet, new age communication. So as soon as Saturn entered in my life back then, I came to US, where I was able to listen to the book and understand what was going on instead of me reading. And this is why I am actually so appreciative of people who become doctors and engineers, especially engineers and like programmers, because you got to understand it from my brain's perspective. It's complete alien world for me, you know. And so what Rahu and Saturn did, they Saturn says you have to work. I'm going to put you to work, and you're going to have to now learn the highest way possible. However, I'm going to bring this duality. I have this partner known as Rahu, who's going to be teaching you in a way which is different than the other progression that I have done in your life. So Rahu says, this is why Aquarius people, you will see, Aquarius people are awkward. They're weird. This is why they use that word being Sanki, right? In India, in Hindi. They have this habit of learning through all these different scenarios and performing their karmas to the best of their ability, far better than anybody else. Some of the greatest scientists would have Aquarius in them, because they don't look at things the way they're supposed to be. They're looking at things in a far outer space. And it is especially in 94, because I got my bicycle. I remember right when I started going to school, I got my bicycle. So from our apartment, I went to the bicycle to school and back, and our mall was right in the way. And in 94, I remember stopping by at the mall, walking through this bookstore. I don't think it was Barnes and Nobles, it was something. And I saw this book sitting called 1994 Scorpio Horoscope. And I'm like, oh, interesting, Scorpio, because I'm a Scorpio, I'm November born. And so in there in 94, I took a book sitting there because I couldn't purchase that. I didn't have no money. So I started reading this book. And whatever I could read, I realized that I am understanding what's written in the book more than my English, history, geography, or mathematic books. And that, I think, was a triggering point in my brain, or karmically just bringing me to astrology, where I could just read a word and understand. And that's when I really got into this whole system of astrology. Yes, I wasn't lucky enough to be in India, where I would pick up some, classical book and learn the real astrology. But hey, astrology is astrology. It got me into this world when Saturn was in Aquarius. But it wasn't something like, oh, now I'm going to become an astrologer. It was just, I wanted to know about my life. So then every year I would I would make whatever money I would make from odd jobs, I would buy the book. So you have to understand, when Saturn is coming into Aquarius within 10 days, or even I think a week now, this is the most potent time to elevate your karmas. It is the most important time, because also in Navamsha, you will see that Saturn will be in its exalted position for a while. I think for a couple of months. And it's going to dance around Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. So, especially in Scorpio, Saturn will take your karmas to the depth. You will see a lot of people reassessing their career, their life, their karma. Why? Because Scorpio is about analyzing. Okay. Scorpio is about analyzing. It's about going to the depth of something. So now Saturn is saying you have to go to the depth of your karma. What are you doing? This is where people kind of um, look at themselves and say, what is my life about? What am I supposed to be doing? That's when it enters into Scorpio and Navamsha. And what happens is, through that agony of going through that frustration, whether it's in your work, whether it's in home, and you're just distracted because you are not understanding if your karmas are correct or not, when it comes into Sagittarius, you know, that's when it gives you the light. That's when the spark plug goes on. That's when that bulb goes on, that, okay, I have to, I find, I found this, and now I'm going to try to pursue this. And especially one thing that always fascinated me with astrology is actually the book that I saw. The book was so colorful. See, with me growing up, I couldn't relate to anything except colors. And to this day, I remember in the whole school I think the second prize, I got first prizes, but I remember when it was a big competition in the entire school, JD Titler School, I got the second prize, and they called me up, and it felt just so great, because when it came to art, I was just mad genius. That's all I knew how to do. The colors. Colors were my calculus. Colors were my, Shakespearean English that you would read. And even this is also the reason why um Vastu came so easy to me. Because I read books on Vastu, I couldn't get it. But when I understood Vastu through colors, I got Vastu. I used Vastu. I actually changed my life through Vastu. This is why I even opened up this course on my academy just last week on Vastu, and it's the most simplest thing you will come across. Why? Because my brain could only understand simple things. It will not understand 2 times 36 divided by 4 multiplied by this. It just understands 2. And I find my mathematical world with just the number 2. So this is what I am able to, this is why I'm able to just create the most simplest thing possible. So especially in the Vastu course that is on my academy, um, I teach through colors. Colors, because again, it was colors and designs and patterns. So when I came across Vastu, I was frustrated at first. I even came across Vastu in 2010. I just, all of these geometrical, mathematical things, I'm like, okay, fine. I'll leave it to someone else who's a genius. But once I understood the colors, the patterns, like certain shapes, it just clicked. My brain, like, especially if I can walk into someone's house, I see colors, I'll know a prediction. So I simply made my life, improved in Vastu through colors. So you see what the this Saturn triggered in me, right when it was in Aquarius 30 years ago, is that I understood things through listening and colors. Like, for example, I remember when I was learning about the history of the Constitution. Okay. For me, like the written passage didn't do much. But when I saw in the computer class listening, I saw these images of the forefathers: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, who's that? John Quincy Adams or John Adams. When I saw their images and I saw the Constitution, I understood. I still have this painting and I still want to create like a short film on that moment when the Constitution was written. These are the seeds that make our flower bloom. Like my flower bloomed, it always bloomed through colors and lights. And that was literally triggered from that point also. Because then in 1994, I believe I saw it was Jurassic Park in a theater. It was one of my first movies in a theater. I think it was Jumanji and Jurassic Park. And that changed things because I understood lessons and stories by watching, by seeing things visually. This is why you see this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. I have not read a single page of this book, but do you know I have listened to this audio book probably 500 times in the last 6 years, daily, because that's how I understand. I have these books, but reading will not give me the comprehension in my brain. So what you will see, okay, with Saturn coming into Aquarius sign, okay, it gives a new path. It's gonna give you a new idea to transform your karmas, transform your work. This is why don't let this Saturn transit in Aquarius go to waste. Because if, let's say, you're an engineer and you're struggling with your path of not succeeding, what Saturn is going to do, it's going to give you omens and triggering points that why are you looking at your engineering work like this? Let me show you a little bit different path. Let me show you through my assistant of my partner Rahu. And this is where you're going to be able to have the right spark of ideas, because air signs are ideas. But see, this is the highest of the air signs. And Aquarius is also Bhavat Bhavam of the sign of Pisces. The abstract knowledge. It was so, again, I'll go back 30 years. It was through abstract knowledge that I was able to actually survive in school. If it wasn't for those computers and listening with my headphone after school or during, recess time, yeah, it would have been struggle. So look how helpful this sign of Aquarius, co-ruled by Rahu and Saturn, does. Now everything is Rahu, okay? But this particular entering of the karma of Saturn and Aquarius, it is always going to show you something new. It is always going to show you something to bring a change, a duality. See, duality is not twins. Duality shows that, look, there are two paths to your problem. There's two solutions to your problem. You have been going into this solution this whole time. Try to take this one. Now, especially you will see like when Saturn goes over planets. For example, if you see that you're a parent, you're a father, your child has Sun Ketu in Aquarius. Saturn is going to come into the sign of Aquarius now. What is it going to trigger? Well, it's going to trigger in your child's chart that their ego is going to be broken by the father. Sun is ego. Sun is the father. Ketu is cut. At a certain age, you may make a mistake of cutting your child's ego and shattering their whatever confidence they had. So you want to make sure, if you're a parent and if you see, let's say, Moon Ketu, a mother may play a certain role in their child's karma with this Saturn transit. So Moon Ketu is in Aquarius. Saturn comes in. There could be such a cut by a single sentence towards your child, which can now becomes a triggering point for the next 30 years. And especially with the moon going over Saturn with Ketu, mother may actually accidentally play a role of bringing depression onto the child. And this could even happen in your 30s. I mean, people have conflicts with their mother throughout life sometimes. Okay. But of course, one of the things we also see is that if, let's say, Sun transits over Moon and Ketu itself, Saturn may actually give you an opportunity to travel to a spiritual place. That will bring about a great change, and especially for people in India, since astrology and Jyotish is embedded in every place, every temple. Like, especially if you have Moon Ketu, with Saturn coming over, going to a Devi's temple, Kali's temple will trigger your careers and karma. Like, for example, you have Mars, right? You've got Mars there. What one should do, if they are capable of, if they donate blood, suddenly their career starts taking off. If Saturn is going over Mars, start working out. Go to the gym and your career will improve. Because you are now doing the activity of the planet which is being triggered by the highest of the karma. This is no longer Sun in just Capricorn or Sagittarius or Leo. This is Sun in Aquarius in its highest state. Sun is saying, pay attention to my karmas now. If you want to flow into my lane. Because otherwise, what you will see, Saturn going over Mars, if you do not work out, you don't join a gym, you're not in a technical field, you're not in real estate, then Saturn could give conflicts and fights with people at work, conflicts and fights with brothers. So if, let's say, you're just a psychologist, but you have Mars in Aquarius, which actually is one of the placement for somebody to do logical, analytical work related to analyzing people, definitely you should be joining some gym, joining some yoga class where the bodily movements have to happen. Because now you're telling Saturn that, listen, before you do anything on your own, I'm already doing this. Okay. If, of course, Saturn goes over Venus and Mercury, I mean, this is going to be a great triggering point for wealth. You will see, forget even the relationships. You could be at any age. Maybe you don't want a relationship. But Saturn is triggering the karma of money. And especially you're going to find that money through source of large group of people. Because if your Venus is in Aquarius, it's always going to gather money somehow through collective of a large group, whether it's conferences, business meetings. You're going to find a way to make money. Obviously, social media. See, there's different types of social media. There's a Gemini type of social media. Then there is Aquarius type of social media. So, of course, with Venus and Aquarius, you will see such people will always strive to bring some positivity and some change and not just waste time on social media. And that's how that money is triggered. Mercury itself can actually trigger land besides just Mars. So Saturn, when it goes over Mercury, it can give you opportunity of attaining land, because Mercury, see, again, in Nadi astrology, Mercury is land, because Mercury is exalted in the sign of Virgo, which is earth, which is where things grow. It is agriculture. So it's agricultural land. This is why Mercury is connected with land, because no other planet that owns its own sign gets exalted in its sign. And at the same time, it is the earth sign. Okay. And this is why we also consider Mars and Moon the significator of land, because Moon is exalted in Taurus and Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So, Moon, Mars, Mercury, these are the three triggering planets of attainment of land or resources of the land. So, Mercury brings multiple resources. When Saturn goes over Mercury, you will see you will have multiple solutions for things coming about, because Mercury is multiplicity. So, if let's say you are not able to get into some educational institute, what Saturn's going to do is going to give you multiple choices now. That, listen, you've been wanting to go here the whole time and you've been failing. Well, take a look at these other choices that now I'm going to give you, because you will be able to get in there. You will able to find an alternative way to get into your educational field. And of course, when Saturn goes over Sun, besides whatever example I gave, this is actually a triggering point for people who are wanting to, let's say, go into government service. They want to clear something with the government. They have a business and they want to get some permission and they are not been able to. Well, Saturn is now giving its karma upon Sun. And Saturn going over Sun is actually a elevation of status. It'll always elevate the status of an individual, especially like in Aquarius, okay, which is a natural sign of the desire. Because again, Rahu is unending desire. This is why also, because Pisces is space, Pisces is vast. Aquarius, like, I'm actually bigger than you. So Rahu said, fine, Jupiter, you can rule Pisces. I'm going to rule Aquarius, which is the Bhavat Bhavam of the 12th house of space. This is why I'm going to give unending fulfillment to people, or unending desires to people. And this is what actually is going to revolve this world into a new age. Because again, because it's Rahu, Rahu's like, I'm going to bring some Asuric tendencies and qualities in Aquarius, which is what? Technology, Wi-Fi, programming, AI. Oh, AI is Aquarius. So it is Rahu that is triggering all of this. And so Saturn's entry into Aquarius also triggers Rahu. It triggers energy of Rahu. So you will see in the right when I came to US, right when Saturn entered Aquarius, suddenly you saw things related to modem and internet came. It was just an explosion from 1994. Now you will see they're already talking about this thing called GPD chat, right? The open source AI chat, which is actually far better than even Google. So you will see within this next 2.5 years of Saturn in Aquarius, it's going to take a new leap and bound in the technical field and technology. You're going to see this. This is going now. See, people have been wanting to talk about Internet 3.0, 3.0, or 2.0, whatever it is. Now you will see the emergence of Internet 3.0 come about with Saturn's karma. See, the karma, the karmic planet, the planet that unravels the karma, it's coming into the highest state. Highest of the highest state. Remember, highest of the highest state. Because Pisces is that highest state, right? And it's the Bhavat Bhavam of Pisces. But also you will see um in this particular period, um, you can actually see triggering of big, like alignment of big enemies against other enemies, especially when you look at, let's say, governments in the world. I mean, you're going to see big enemies come about, big protagonists come about for one country versus the other. Why? Because Aquarius is also sixth from the sixth. Bhavat Bhavam of the sixth house of enemies. If sixth house is enemies, Aquarius brings about like exotic enemies. So, on the other hand, we see that on the world stage, you will see that there would be big, you're going to feel that, like, wow, these opponents are powerful. How are we going to get through these ones? Okay. And then also, you will see with Saturn coming over Moon, if you don't travel, you will see, you will feel depressed, and you will have a hard time in your career. With Saturn entering in Aquarius, and if your moon is, your moon is at 29 degrees, well, don't worry about it till 2024 end. But anywhere moon is in the middle, start planning travels. Take some time off on the weekend, go on some road trip. You will see not only your mind just changes, but also it helps you in your career. You're going to start seeing the rise in your career. Also, if you have a moon, this is very important. When Saturn goes over moon in Aquarius, give free service to people. Give free service to people. Whatever you're doing, if you're a lawyer, and I've already made the video on Saturn moon code, start giving at least pro bono work for one client once a month. So, okay, if anybody needs help, I'm going to give you 3-4 hours of counseling and suggestions and all of these things at no cost. If, let's say, you are owning a restaurant, maybe one day out of the month, give free food to people. Say, if you come between this and this time, you will get free donuts or you will get free tea. And you will see your food business rise. And I've also said that when Saturn comes over Ketu, if you have Ketu, spiritual practices becomes very important. Internalizing yourself becomes important, which is what? Like meditation. Any work with Ketu will enhance your career. Ketu is either spiritual work, electrical work. Ketu is work in like occult, mysticism, clinical psychology, research. So this is where you will see such people then will trigger that career. And even if, let's say, you're a plumber and you're watching this video right now, what you need to do is start doing spiritual practice. Maybe if you're, let's say, a Christian, start reading the Bible one page every day. And you see how you start getting more calls from people. Hey, I've got this issue in my home. Can you please come? This is the magical turning point. Okay. And like I told you, like literally when Saturn was in Aquarius, this is where on my own I discovered yearly horoscopes and just got into them. Okay. If, let's say, Saturn is coming over Jupiter, your Jupiter is in Aquarius. Saturn goes over, Jupiter. Of course, this is actually the karma planet coming over the Jiva planet. It naturally will activate your life all around. You could be getting married, having children, finding a brand new job, new prosperity. But also, this shows, regardless of what your career is, pay respect to some teacher, pay respect to some guru. Even, let's say, you are in US, you don't really know or care about these things like gurus and all of that. Go and meet a priest. Say, I want to learn from you. Can you teach me about Christ and the Bible today? I really appreciate you. When you thank that Jupiterian individual, you see how Saturn then starts triggering your overall life, because Jupiter is your overall life. It is you. And especially with Jupiter, like I said, naturally you're going to see all the aspects of your life become alive. Whether it's, you know, um, see, look, it's starting to rain. It's starting to rain, and that's an omen. It's going to rain down things on your life when you deal with Jupiter. Perhaps donate money to a guru during this 2.5 years. If you believe in some guru, you like some guru, well, just donate to their organization, and you will see how the interest comes back karmically to you with your own money that you have given. So this is probably one of the most important transit. It's more important than Jupiter being in Cancer. It's more important than Rahu being in Taurus or Saturn being in Libra. Because Aquarius has these magical qualities of, because it's Rahu. And Rahu wants to give. Remember, I told you Rahu is a Bhoga Karka. So it has its quality energy in there, even though it's transiting in the sign of Aquarius. I mean, sign of Aries right now. But when Saturn does things in Aquarius, it will bring a big change in your life that will set you up for the next 30 years. Okay. So this is what I wanted to say. And like I told you guys, yeah, I'm dealing with certain things right now in my personal life that, they are quite distracting. But, I just thought that now this timing is coming of Saturn to enter in Aquarius. I let you guys know with some personal taste of my own life. All right. So thank you very much. And hopefully I will see you sometime this week again. All right. Bye bye.